Welcome to WorkRise Shorts. My name is Teresa Kroger, and I'm the Research Director at WorkRise, which is a research to action network focused on jobs, workers, and mobility, hosted by the Urban Institute. We have a great conversation lined up today with Sally Windisch, who's a researcher at the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM. We'll be diving into the recent research report that discusses findings from an education and technical assistance pilot program for employers focused on skills-first hiring. Sally, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for having me.
So what is the exact problem that you were hoping your research to address, solve, or advance? And what's the change you want to see that your research informs?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Teresa. So SHRM and SHRM Foundation back in 2022 actually piloted a similar program where in 2022 we piloted an 8-month program for 9 employers. And we wanted to solve for essentially skills first hiring and to get an idea of what works for organizations to be able to implement these initiatives in their organization. And so in 2022, those 9 employers were provided with a mentor. So the mentor helped them with identifying gaps and barriers in their organizations. It also helped them identify solutions. But one of the major barriers is that being provided a mentor, having regular check-in sessions like that can be pretty time consuming, and it can also introduce budget constraints. So as much as we would love to be able to provide everybody who is interested in skills first hiring with a mentor, that is not really a feasible solution. And so in partnership with SHRM Foundation, and with funding from WorkRise, we were able to pilot a 2024 program where, in addition to having a group that do have mentors, we also had 2 other groups. And so one of the groups was completely self-directed. They received a PDF with free resources to be able to use on their own time. And then the second group received everything that the first group received, in addition to technology-based guidance. So this was through our e-learning platform. And then finally, the third group is the group that is most similar to the 2022 pilot, where they received the PDF and then they also received the technology-based guidance, but then they also had help from a mentor. So they were doing twice monthly coaching sessions. They also were provided with, in addition to the bi-monthly coaching sessions, they were also provided with a mentor who helped them identify gaps and barriers in their current practices, and then also help them identify solutions for those as well.
And for anyone who might not know, what is skills first hiring?
Oh, skills first hiring is an initiative that helps organizations focus on making hiring decisions based on skills and knowledge, regardless of where the skills or knowledge came from. So a lot of times organizations or employers will look for hires with traditional degree requirements. And so the push for skills first hiring is essentially for a push for qualified candidates, regardless of where their skills come from.
Excellent. So you have these 3 different groups with different resources to help with skills first hiring. So what were your key research findings from that?
Yeah, so initially we went into this project curious to see if the 3 groups saw different levels of progress. And when we did the analysis, we looked at 5 different areas of interest. So we looked at whether organizations knew where to begin with skills first hiring. We looked at how comfortable they felt with navigating the skilled credentials landscape, because frankly, there are a lot of skilled credentials out there, and it can be very difficult for organizations to be able to match the existing skilled credentials to what their roles are looking for. The third area is aligning job descriptions with skills, sourcing qualified candidates, so where to find folks to hire, as well as recognizing skilled credentials and upskilling and advancement. So these are for folks who are already in their organizations and not necessarily new hires. And then in the research, we found that all 3 groups found improvements in all of these 5 key areas, and that not one group performed significantly better than the others.
Excellent. Interesting. And so who are the primary communities that you feel will be most impacted by this study, and how are those voices included in the research process?
Yeah, so the primary communities that we feel will be most impacted are HR pros from organizations who are experiencing talent shortages, Especially because this research shows them how to make the shift towards skills first hiring. So currently, within many workforces, we are seeing gaps in, we are seeing a shortage of talent. And so being able to widen this talent pool and including those who might not have traditional degrees or who might have acquired their skills or knowledge outside of a college setting can help widen that talent pool and provide organizations that are experiencing talent shortages with more candidates to select from.
Excellent. And I think you just mentioned some of them, but what other actors are best positioned to advance their findings from this research, and what do you hope that they will do with it?
So in addition to employers who are experiencing talent shortages, we think that this would also be an excellent resource for advocates of skills first hiring. Within the research, we found that in addition to internal collaborations, that external collaborations are also the key to success for these initiatives. And so if there are any organizations out there who have successfully implemented skills first hiring in their organizations, we would encourage them to reach out to organizations who are interested to share out some of the tips that they have learned throughout their own journeys, and then as well as what has worked for them, what barriers they have seen themselves, and how they have overcame them.
Excellent. Were there any interesting or unexpected findings that you uncovered during the research process?
Yeah, so initially going into the research, one would assume that organizations or employers who have more resources or who have more intensive resources, such as having a one-on-one mentor that is assigned to your organization or to your HR pro specifically, would see more progress in skills first hiring. And so it was really surprising to me to see that, well, not only did all 20 employers that were a part of the pilot made progress, but it was also really interesting to me to see that there were no significant differences between groups. So there was not any one group that did better than the others. They all saw progress at about the same rate. So that was really cool, because one of the things that we really want to drive home with this research is that skills first hiring doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming. Your organizations are able to implement skills first initiatives at their organizations, regardless of where they are in their readiness journey. So whether you have an HR department of 1 or whether you have an HR department of 20, there are still areas of progress that can be made. And the different resources show that regardless of where you are in your readiness journey, that there is something out there for employers that they can do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your work. We're excited to see more on this topic from you and SHRM in the future. So to learn more about this research, viewers can visit the research and data page on WorkRise's website, workrisenetwork.org. And I thank you again for joining us, Sally.
Thank you, Teresa.